As Michael Jackson fans, we've all wondered what it would be like to actually become friends with Michael, to know Michael on a personal basis, to know the Jackson family. Well, today's guest did just that. She was a fan from the very beginning of Michael's career, and through her time as a fan, she's had lots of personal memories, stories with Michael and the Jackson family. She's got so many awesome stories that she's going to be telling us today. Lifelong fan, welcome to the show, Starr Hayes.
Hello.
Hi, Starr.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you so much for having me.
Yes, now you are the CEO of Jackson Doll Productions. Can you just tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, my name is Starr Hayes. I am actually the founder of the Jackson Fan Club, which is one of the first fan club in existence for the Jacksons. And I started about 1970, but didn't become official to 1971.
Wow, I love that. And I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but you are a Jackson's fan really from the beginning of their career then, if you say 1970, right?
Yes, of course. Yes.
As a fan and as the founder of one of these the big Jackson fan clubs, you actually became friends with Michael and the Jackson family, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's something that I think a lot of us fans have always dreamed of that never got the chance to meet Michael. I never got the chance to meet Michael. So I'm really excited to talk to you today. Uh,
Thank
yeah, it's going to be so fun. So I want to take you back into time, like from the beginning. So can you take us back, not to the time you met them, but the very first time you heard Michael and the Jackson 5 music? Do you remember that?
yes, on the radio, I heard the song I Want You Back. And like so many other little girls, I was just enchanted. And for some reason, I don't know, I just knew I was going to meet him. I knew it. Whatever I had to do, whatever it took, I was going to meet Michael Jackson. That was it.
So you like in a way you almost manifested it. You just had that drive too in your mind too, like this is gonna happen.
I, I didn't see any other kind of way. I never thought that I couldn't. I just knew I had to. It was like a desperate type of plea that I said to myself, whatever it takes, you will meet Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5.
Oh, I love that. And so at that time they were on the radio with their first few singles that all hit number one. They set that record. And then they started doing their TV appearances. Was there like a specific appearance that like really left your mark on you when you first saw them on television?
The Ed Sullivan Show.
Okay.
That was when I said, I'm going to marry Michael Jackson. And I set out to do that.
That is amazing. And that is like one of the most iconic performances of the Ed Sullivan show of all time. Like whenever they talk about the Ed Sullivan show, they talk about that performance because that really showed the depth of the Jacksons' talent, but also Michael's talent. Like very surprising for such a young group.
And in fact, you could identify with them because they were like your size, your age.
I've heard that, like, because my dad is also a fan, and he is around the same age as Michael, so he was also watching and growing up at the same time, and he said that it really made an impact because you saw also people that looked like you,
Exactly.
and that was really that representation was super important.
Very true. Very true.
Yes, and I even felt that way later, even though I was born. So I was born in '87, and
Oh,
so,
wow.
but I grew up, but I grew up, being introduced to the Jackson 5, and I felt the same. Like I was 12, listening to Michael when he was 12, and I was like, I can relate. So,
Okay. Okay.
so tell me as a young fan, like what made Michael different to you? Because the Jackson 5, everybody had their favorites, right? I know there are a bunch of fans that loved Jermaine, that loved Jackie, but tell me what stood out to you about Michael.
Well, I loved all the Jacksons, but Michael was more my age. So it was just simply that he was the closest to my age. And of course, he was a lead singer. So that was the big attractions for Michael at that time.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, I'm gonna just jump right in because I've got to know. Tell me about the first time that you met Michael Jackson or the Jackson 5? Tell me about that.
1971 at the Ohio State Fair, I believe. It was eventful. I was living at that time with my stepmom, and she just, you know, I lived for the Jackson Five. That was just my existence for living. And she was called herself surprised at me taking me to the concert. Well, she got lost. And it was just the end of the world for me. I mean, I was crying and going on. Like, if I meet Michael Jackson, if I miss Michael Jackson, I'm just going to die right here in the car. And she was going, girl, you ain't gonna miss on Michael Jackson. I said, well, I cried, I just got to see Michael. I'm just going to die right here in the car. So we get there and we late. And she said, stop crying. You're not going outside. Okay. And so we're walking to our seats. And I'm walking with my head down because I'm mad at her. Okay, you're gonna make me miss Michael Jackson. This is it. And I bumped right into Mr. Jackson.
Wow. Okay, so the father manager, you bumped right into him.
I walked right into, I didn't know who he was. Because I
Mm.
was just walking with my head down, fighting back the tears. Because they're singing the song Stand, and I'm just convinced I missed the whole show, okay? Because she got lost,
Oh.
And so like most, 10, 11-year-olds, this is the end of the world for you.
Right.
And so I bumped into Mr. Jackson, and he was so tall because I'm a little kid, and I looked up, in my mouth, and I said, oh, and I said, Mr. Jackson, my name is Starr Hayes, and I'm going to marry your son, Michael. Well, no, I'm sorry. I said, I'm going to marry your son. He said, which one? I said, Michael. And he said, oh, well, maybe you will, sweetheart. He laughed. He said, would you like to meet him? And I stood there because I was fighting back the tears and still trying to hold this conversation up. I don't know where this energy came. This little girl is crazy, you must be thinking. And my mother's like looking at me. She's, this girl here. And I said, well, yes. And he told my mom, he said, well, this is where you take her, over to the Hilton Hotel, Sheridan. And, she can meet the guys and everything like that.
Wow. So just
And
like by
so,
chance.
yes, destiny, faith. A
Okay.
little girl with this vivid imagination. She had to meet Michael Jackson. He was her life force.
And now it's happening. So you get to the hotel after the show, and
Yes.
then does Mr. Jackson introduce you guys, or like what is the process for that?
Well, we're in the lobby, and Mr. Jackson is waiting on us. And so he takes us upstairs to their rooms, and he proceeded to knock on each one of their doors. And they came out one by one, and Michael came out last.
What? So that
And
is like, okay, sorry, go ahead.
I felt completely apart. I just started crying.
Oh.
Just started crying. He was looking at me like, but I just can't. I told him I couldn't breathe. I said, but I just can't breathe. And I'm crying. And Mr. Jackson was looking at me. My mother's aggravated with me. Yeah, it was a little bit too much for me, who had endured so much to get to this process. And then now he is here, this little boy with all the pictures on the walls, all the little outings in the garage, my little homemade Jackson fan club and everything. And now he's standing here. And
Right.
so that was my first meeting with Michael Jackson.
And was he like, what was his reaction to that? Like,
Uh,
how did he handle that meeting?
he looked at me like they all did. Marlon started to laugh. Jermaine was sneaking in. Jackie and Marlon was like, And Michael just looked at me like, oh. And he just turned to do like this, and he turned around and went back in his room.
Ah! That's hilarious. I mean, that's a real meeting if I've ever heard it.
That was a kind of rough start.
Yeah. Okay, so now after that, I'm assuming that you've gone to many more events as time goes on, right? Especially
Yes.
once you founded the club. So tell us, I want to actually pull up some pictures because I want to show everybody some of the memories that you have. I don't have them in particular order, but I just want to show them to you and maybe bring some memories back. So This is one of the
Ooh, that's a
pictures.
good one.
Yes. Okay, so I know we were fast forwarding way from 1971 now to like the 80s, but tell us what was happening in this picture.
Well, he was in the room, and there were a lot of people in the room, and he was like sitting on this desk, right? And so I'm going like, "Well, Michael, where do you want me to sit?" And he just looked at me, right? So I said, "Okay." So I just got and scoot up in between his legs and sit there
What?
and tucked the picture.
Oh, we need the rest of the picture. I'm so mad it's cropped.
And Miss Jackson just busts out laughing. The security busts out laughing. And he was sneaking, okay, where am I supposed to sit? Everybody has taken up every chair. And
Right.
he's sitting on his desk and he's got his legs kind of wide open. And I just backed my butt up in there and just sat right in there.
I
And
love it. I
remember,
love
just a
it.
bold little girl, right?
Yes, but you know what? That boldness got you this picture and so many more moments, which I love. Like that to me, that's like the dream, Because we all feel like, oh yeah, if I met Michael, we're gonna do this or gonna do that, and a lot of us freeze. Like I would think I would freeze for sure. So the fact that you had that boldness to like to be more of like almost like a friend, to regard him as that as instead of the king of pop, That's what it feels like to me.
I didn't know that terminology, king of pop, either. See, I didn't grow up with that kind of adulation for Michael Jackson. For me, he was just Mike.
So here we go with another picture. Now this looks like it's like from the Destiny era almost, maybe Triumph. So tell us about this.
Now, these tours they all come together now because
I
I'm a little up in age. Um, Pretty much of the same thing, just us reconnecting and talking. Um, I think it was during that time that we talked about his favorite flowers because he had given me some flowers and they were carnations. And I said, "Wow, I love carnations." He said, "I do too. Those are my favorite flowers." And I go like, "Wow." And so then every time chance after that, I would give him red carnations.
I love like just like I that's just such a fun fact because like how would we ever know that unless he put it in an interview or something? But the fact that you got to have that one-on-one conversation is so meaningful. And I wanted to ask you like how did you make that transition from going to the fan events and going to concerts to becoming like a friend, like someone that Michael could talk to?
Just being there, and being myself. Because I came around at such an early age, we kind of saw each other grow up. Went from being this pesky little girl to, oh, now I'm a teenager. Oh, so now I'm a grown woman. So just had those transitions going there, as opposed to a lot of people he met during various parts of his life. Me, from as he grew up, so did I.
Right, right. And I'm sure like I would imagine like that dedication through the years meant a lot to Michael because I mean, you were there from the beginning and kept showing up to shows and to concerts. That must have meant a lot to him. He must have noticed.
Well, the whole family has been extremely appreciative. To say one more than the other, I don't know.
Okay.
To be fair, but they all have been amazing. You know, Mr. Jackson. Even during his most sternest points, I got the message.
Right.
Because he's rough now. No, Pops was rough, but I understood him, and I understand him more now than I ever did. So each one of them have been an intricate part of my life, and I'm so very, very grateful. I'm so grateful.
Mm. Can you tell us okay, here's another picture we have from the off the wall era. Is this like a fan club event or like how did you
Oh,
and everyone get in this picture?
let me see. Oh, that is after the concert here in Detroit. That's after one of the concerts. And at that particular time, well, no, it was after that because at one time I had several fan clubs. The Cleveland, what happened with Chicago, Detroit. So that was just strictly Detroit. I was doing a meet and greet with the fans, the fan club members
Got it.
after the
Okay.
concert. Hmm.
I always wondered like what meet and greets were like with Michael because or the Jacksons in general because to be honest like when I had by the time that I was knowing Michael it was like the Dangerous era. So that's way later into the 90s. So I've always wanted to know like what was that interaction like? Was it easier to meet Michael back in those days? Or was it just because you were the fan club that he knew and that he trusted that you were able to get like that close access?
It's challenging because Michael had various people that work with him who had nefarious reasons for doing things at times. It was a lot of times that there were trials and tribulations. I mean, one of his I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to tell you this. He had this person working for him, and I believe he had his own ulterior motives. And I was so angry because Michael would use him as a vocal point of contact a lot of times because he said, "Sir, I'm on the road. I'm this and this, that. We just call Bob Jones." Well, Bob Jones was just a terrible person,
Mm.
and he was very envious and he was very jealous. And he would just do some very mean, hateful things to me. He would say mean things. And Michael would just be nonchalant, like, "Sir, yes, he did, Michael." And so it had a pivotal point for me. And I told Michael, I said, I've had it. If you don't want to be bothered, say you don't want to be bothered. But what I will not do is be disrespected by that man anymore. I'm at the point now. I
Yeah.
will not take it anymore. And so he goes, "Sir, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?" Michael? And I went on to tell him the things again for the umpteenth time what Bob Jones was doing.
If you've been loving this journey through Michael Jackson's legacy with me, I want to invite you to take it a step further. On Patreon, you'll get early access to every video, completely ad-free, plus exclusive reaction videos, candid behind-the-scenes chats, and access to a library of over 80 plus bonus posts. More than that, when you join, you're helping me keep this community alive. It's just $4.99 a month, and even joining once makes a big difference. Visit patreon.com/MJFangirl and become part of something special. I can't wait to see you over there. Also, shout out to our Patreon Platinum sponsor, Marla's. You help support the show so much more than you know. I appreciate you. You are the absolute best.
So he called Bob Jones up into his bedroom, and we're sitting there, and I'm sitting on the bed, and Michael's sitting in the chair, and Bob Jones comes in, and I'm on fire. I'm mad as all outdoors, okay? And so he said, "So Bob, what is going on?" He said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, sir, tell me there's been some things that you've been doing that are very mean and hateful." I said, "I don't even know what she's talking about. She lying." Huh? And I said, okay. Gotta be a lady. Gotta be a lady. And so I said, "Well, you did this and this and that." "Oh, again, that's just the next." I said, "You a lie. You did this. You said Michael said that. You said that." And the whole time Michael was just sitting there listening, right?
Mhm.
So all of a sudden Bob Jones said the word ghetto.
Oh, no.
And next thing I knew, I was talking to myself. I was talking to that inner, okay, this, and I was saying some unblessed words. You hear me, to myself. And I know Michael heard me. I said this. And while I'm doing that, I'm sitting on the bed. So I got these 4-inch high heels on, right? So I taking the shoe off. And, Michael's just listening. And he's like, "I said you such and such," with two kind of nice unwords.
Uh-huh.
And I reached my hand up to hit him. And
Oh.
Michael grabbed my hand like this is his son. No.
Oh, no. A full out brawl in the hotel room?
I know. And I was going off, and Michael's got, he told him, "Get out the room." He calls security, "Get him out of here, get him out of here." And I said, "How was that?" And he said, "Calm down." And then afterwards, it was so funny. He said, he said, "You were going to," I said, "Oh." And he thought that was so funny afterwards, the after effect. He said, "You were really mad." You were like, yes.
Oh my
He was
gosh.
going to get that 4-inch heel. Okay.
So, for people that don't know, including okay, so Bob Jones was like a publicist that used to work with Michael, right? Or was he
He was a publicist that used to work with Michael, who had, like I said, ulterior motives. And he was very spiteful, very mean, very jealous, evil.
Wow.
methodical, any kind of words I can just say that explains his character.
But
And
mhm.
there are times, of course, that those actions are needed for some people that can be overwhelming. I wasn't one of the ones because I only called because Michael said call you. I would only get in touch with you because Michael said to get in touch with you.
Hey, this is Editing MJ Fangirl here. I just wanted to let you guys know that there's a Halloween pumpkin carving contest that is going on right now. It's sponsored by myself and MJ Market, Michael Jackson Market. Enter to win some collector's chance cards, which feature a piece of Michael Jackson memorabilia. It's a piece of Michael Jackson history that you would go home with. You would own it. All you have to do is carve your pumpkin in a Michael Jackson theme. You could do a Thriller face. You could do something ghost related. Shoot, you could do a zombie. I mean, the world is your oyster. Get creative. Submit your Halloween pumpkin carving to the contest. Find out more information. I'm dropping it all in the description box, but also find out on michaeljacksonmarket.com. I can't wait to see what you guys get into. Last year we had really, really fun entries, so I can't wait to see. Hopefully a subscriber of mine wins. Now back to the episode.
And so for you to categorize me as one of them that you did not have on the preferred list because you had some sense of fake security, and I've seen him do that to people before. I mean, he was just terrible, terrible, terrible. And so it needed to be done.
It seems like Michael did have sometimes people that were like almost like the talking points. So instead of like having his personal phone number or whatever, I mean, back in that day, there was no cell phones, right? But at the same time, he was not necessarily calling people up directly. He had people that were kind of his people that would help access to him, right?
There would be sometimes, of course, he would call himself, which was very rarely, especially during various times. And then there are other times that other people would call and say, I'm calling for Michael Jackson, such as this. And so they kind of filled out the call and things of that nature. So it was different times, different things happen.
Right. Right. And what was the moment like? I'm sure I'm assuming this is like a culmination of time that you guys met to where you really felt like, oh, like I'm in. Like Michael and the family consider me to be a friend now. Like, was there a pivotal moment?
No, no. I never thought too much about it. Again, you're talking about somebody that's been around since a kid. So I just always felt like blessed to be a part of it and see you when I see you. I had no other ideology, no thoughts behind it or anything. Still don't.
So that must have been interesting though to go from, because Michael was a super, the Jackson 5, the Jacksons, they were superstars, but then when Thriller came out, it took it to like a whole nother level, is what the general consensus is. How was that? Like, was there a point where you were like, whoa, this is something different that I wasn't even expecting, Like what was that transition like, seeing Michael kind of catapult into like a whole nother category?
I didn't realize the extent of Michael's fame until one particular time I was backstage at one of the concerts. And I was walking to me and my best friend, we were together. And I said, give me a few minutes, to get my thoughts together. And I was walking from the backstage to the audience. And suddenly I looked out into the audience and I said, wow, look at all of these people. And one of the roadies said, well, that is Michael Jackson. And at that particular point, then I realized the magnitude of his fame.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I feel like because you were almost you're on the inside from the beginning, so it's like inside, and now you finally looking out and being like, wow, this is something else, right?
But I never felt a difference in that. I just saw a difference in that and how things began to change within that arena. Um, it's just a lot. It was just he had so many other obligations and pulls on him, and so um, it changed. It changed a lot.
Um, okay, so this is an earlier picture. we're seeing here. Tell us about that change, like from days like this to like the Thriller era.
That's in 1977 or 75. I can't remember. Those years are running together. Yeah, we were just hanging out right there, just talking and catching up on some things.
And so when from the 70s to the Thriller era, from what I can tell from like different accounts I've heard and stories, that Michael's circle almost became a lot more guarded around him, when it more became about his solo career. Because up until that point, even through Thriller with the Victory Tour, he still performed with the brothers. They still did their tours together, which I personally love. I love seeing the tours of the Triumph Tour and the Victory Tour clips. I wish they would put those out on streaming or DVD or something. Um, so just I would love to know about what it was like to be in those moments.
In those moments, wow, so many moments, honey, so many moments. Um, it's a difference when you are around it a lot and you grow into that and it becomes the norm, even though the excitement, the thrill is still there. But you know that you're going to be a part of this in some kind of capacity. So it's different. I don't have to go through a lot of the hoopla a lot of other people would go through, because eventually at the end of the line, regardless how stressful it may be to get there, I will get there.
Right.
Because somebody along the way is going to recognize who I am. And there's going to be somebody who's going to say, oh, I'll let Michael know or whatever, that you're trying to get through him or something like that. And it always happened that way, even, do all Bob Jones antics. It was able to get through to Michael in some capacity to make that visit real.
Now, I have a question about Michael as just like an everyday person. What was he like? What was his personality like in person? Was it the same as his public image?
Mm, Different in a lot of ways. Michael's very, very charming, very, very charming, and he's very polite. And he's extremely intelligent. I mean, we could talk and converse on different philosophy, world religions, politics, Greek mythology. We would have like heated debates and defending my point, defend his point, and then we'll come to a mutual agreement. You're right. Okay. And those are the things that I missed about Michael. He was just a world student and he just took in all of that knowledge everywhere. Even when he faced some of those difficulties like racism in the South and things like that, that we could share that and talk about, what that felt like for him being this prominent entertainer. And you're still going through that discrimination, racism, as opposed to me being an African American Black girl growing up in Detroit and Cleveland and seeing it from the other end.
Yeah.
Very different people, but still the same cause and effect.
And I love that you bring that up because that's something that I feel like a lot of people gloss over or they don't notice because Michael had such a global impact that now a lot of people looking back don't remember or realize that no, he faced a lot of adversity, racism, things like that, prejudices as well, that a lot of them he overcame. But I'm sure that he faced a lot of hard times, behind the scenes that we don't even know about,
They were out in the 70s, so of course he did. And he internalized a lot of that. And I believe that helped to shift him, especially when I listen to the song Man in the Mirror. I go like, yeah, I can see how that has impacted him and all the things he's experienced and how he wanted to be a better person in spite of everything that he had endured and everything he had seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you just talked about Man in the Mirror, and that brings me to just some lighthearted lightning round questions that I want to ask you before we continue into the friendship. I just want to ask you like about your favorite songs and everything. So can we get into that?
Favorite Jackson 5 song is Maybe Tomorrow.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Mhm.
Can you tell us why? Is it just meaningful to you?
Well, that was probably one of the first songs that was dedicated to the Jackson fan club. And it also symbolizes a time in my life when I was going through a lot of adversity. And at that particular time, because it was such horrific things going on in my life before I got to the pivotal point with the Jacksons, that there was a time that I did not want to continue. And when I didn't want to live for myself, I lived for the Jacksons. And that particular day that I thought I just had more than I just couldn't take no more. The song Maybe Tomorrow came on. And then I realized at that particular point, well, something happened to me, what's going to happen to the Jacksons?
Mm.
And so that song will always be a pivotal point. And I think Michael knew, but the brothers did not know. And I shared that with them in Gary, Indiana. And they were like, oh my gosh. And it's, you know, TJ knew, some of the family know, but that is the story.
Wow. Now, you say Gary, Indiana. Was that just at that recent gathering they had?
Yes, on the 2300 Jackson Street.
How was that? I wanted to ask you earlier, but I forgot. How was that? Because everybody, so basically for those of you who are listening or watching that don't know, the Gary, Indiana's mayor, or I think is the mayor, right, of Gary.
The mayor.
Yeah, he basically created like a block party, Jackson's block party. And the first day, or two, it was 2 days. One of them was for Michael's birthday. They played music and had Chris Tucker, excuse me. And then the next day they honored the Jacksons family. Right? So how was that gathering? And did you get to interact with Jackie and Marlon?
Yes, I did. In fact, the second day they honored me. And that was a really beautiful surprise because I did not know that they had realized it had been 57 years.
Wow.
And so for them to call me on stage and to pay tribute to me for my support over the years was just more than amazing for me. It's probably one of the pivotal points of my life. And I'm still so very, very grateful.
Oh, that is beautiful. And I wanted to ask you too, like, have you met, I know you've met the Jacksons many times, but have you continued to go to their shows? Because they're still performing.
Yes, I do. I go to their shows pretty regularly. I still support them. I have various programs that they support. I have a Katherine Jackson coat drive that's actually kicking off gear in about 2 weeks. That we provide coats to children in inner city, economically challenged men and women in the community, and they're giving coats, gently used are new coats.
Got it. Okay. So it seems like the Jacksons had that humanitarian aspect that made an impact on you as well for you to continue this ongoing legacy of giving back.
Well, prior to Michael's untimely passing, there were some things that we had planned on doing. And that was one of the things that we talked about. And he thought that was so great that it was going to be named after his mom. And so I continued on with that after his untimely passing because I wanted to make sure that I honored him.
Mm. That's beautiful. And I think that's one of the lasting legacies of Michael is that humanitarianism and that giving back. What's one story that always makes you smile when you think of Michael?
uh, wow. Oh, okay. So he was doing the West. And he was coming to Detroit, and I met him in Detroit, me and my best friend, her and Mike was the best of buddies, and we were walking to Michael's room, right? And I decided to stop into the restroom, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm in the restroom, laying on the floor, screaming and hollering and going on, rolling around on the floor, right? Okay. Typical Jackson, having a Jackson moment, okay? Because a couple of good songs that came on and everything, and I'm just having a Jackson fit. So I dust myself off and get off the ground, and I go back out there. He said, I know that was you. What? I knew that was you. Over who? Now you know I ain't screaming over you. And they were all laughing, and my girlfriend said, we all heard you though. And I go like, straight up and said it was somebody else. So, he never let me forget that. She said, so you're not, okay, all right. I don't know what's wrong with you. I would never be screaming and hollering over you. I don't know what's wrong with you. But yes, that was a funny moment.
Oh,
So
now.
there are moments like that I think about that I miss about him. I miss his sincerity about I miss him, I miss that part about him. That's the Michael Jackson I think about. I don't see Michael Jackson as this great aluminum being God. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story though.
Okay.
So I was coming to visit him on tour, and I would be sometimes in the lobby just wanting to meet the fans and stuff, kind of indiscreetly, and just sitting there, hi, how you doing? Somebody come by, I go up and talk to somebody. And this woman told me, she said, in my Jesus Christ. I said, huh? She said, I love him so much. Huh? I said, well, I don't know about none of that now. She said, I said, no, he ain't none of my Jesus Christ. No, absolutely not.
Wow.
But he's I said, but he's a nice guy, like most men. And she thought it was so funny. She says, well, who's your favorite? I said, I love them all, but I like Michael a little bit more because I spend more time with him. She spend time with you. I said, when you see him out in concert and all that, you be thinking this and that. I didn't go into particulars because I didn't want the fanfare. Okay. So anyway, by now the security guard's looking for me, right? And I see him looking for me, and I'm dodging whatever. And I'm just talking to people. And so finally come on my shoulder like this. They start, come on. I go like, okay. I said, well, nice meeting you guys. Have a wonderful time. So I goes upstairs and he knocks on the door. And Michael said, he said, sorry. He said, come in. He said, well, where were you? I said, I was meeting the fans. And I said, the strangest thing happened. He said, well, I said, this woman's down there told me you saw Jesus Christ. Let me tell you something. You ain't none of my Jesus Christ. And he got really serious. And I thought, oh my God, I went too far. And he looked at me, his whole face, his whole countenance, she just changed. He did not like that at all. And then I said, oh, but just let me tell you this. You ain't none of my Jesus Christ. He said, we'll see about that. And it was funny. It's like,
Oh my goodness.
oh, that was a funny moment. Yeah. But he didn't like that. He didn't like that people putting him on like a God complex and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because he was a man of great faith. And he never wanted to be idolized. He wanted to be loved, but not idolized, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, that makes so much sense. And I think that's another thing that people often forget about is that religious aspect of Michael Jackson and I mean, he said it himself though too. He was like, "No, I don't want people to compare me to a God or Jesus Christ. Like I don't want that." And I really believe you. I really believe that you're right about that. But I want to know, where do people get this like Peter Pan idea of Michael Jackson? That to me that's so like demeaning, because I'm like, he was a businessman, he was smart, he was so well read, educated, like talented. Where's this Peter Pan idea coming from? What do you think about it?
When I think about Peter Pan, I think about the fact that children were attracted to Peter Pan, and he had that simple, clean, old-fashioned love for children. I don't know. We never discussed this, so I don't know. But if I think about that part of it, maybe that's true. But in terms of the fantasy world and all of that, I think Michael was very creative because, he wanted to be a part of Marvel and all of that. And God, he had been so fantastic with that. His imagination was extraordinary. But I think that people look at Michael, and for whatever is missing in their own lives, or because they don't know him, they attach that to other things, and they forget that he's just human. He's fallible. He makes mistakes. He's not perfect. He's just a man. He's an extraordinary man with a gifted talent, but he's just a man. That's it.
Yeah.
Just a man.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then when you put a person on that type of pedestal, look at the pressure that you put on him. I mean, he didn't have peace. To go out and to live his life and do the things that he wanted to do without being adored. And it's okay to love someone, but you got to respect their privacy as well. And I think sometimes it just can be so much. He became a prisoner in his own house. And don't get me wrong, Neverland is absolutely beautiful and amazing. But, he was still a prisoner there.
Right. He was trapped. I mean, how can you, and even the disguises, it's still obvious that it's him, right? Like, I think it's so interesting though that you bring that up. Like, I think a lot of fans look back and they think like, oh, how Michael reacted to fans was always positive. Like, I know he loved the fans. I feel like he loved the fans, but
He do love his fans.
but at the same time, like you said, that does put a lot of pressure on someone. At the end of the day.
Thank you so much, MJ fangirl. Thank you for your love and support for the Michael Jackson community. Thank you for being a bright light. Thank you for being another generation of Jackson's fans. I appreciate you. And thank you for honoring those of us who came along the way with Michael.
Thank you. That means so much to me. And never know who will be on the show next. Make sure that you subscribe to the Patreon. It's $4.99 a month, and that's a membership that helps to keep the show going with exclusive content and ad-free exclusive drops, early drops of episodes just like this. So I appreciate you guys. Guys, it's almost thriller season. It's almost thriller season. Hee hee. All right. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.